It happened in a hotel that had been standing for nearly 80 years, the kind of place where polished marble floors and soft golden lighting were meant to create a sense of calm luxury. Most nights ended quietly after midnight, when the lobby emptied and the staff shifted into routine. On that particular night, only a receptionist, one security guard, and a maintenance worker remained on duty. Nothing unusual had been reported. The weather outside was calm, the guest count was low, and the elevators had been operating without issues all evening. Yet shortly after 1 a.m., one elevator made an unscheduled stop in the lobby, even though no call had been placed from any floor and no one was waiting to enter. At first, no one thought much of it, but within the next hour, that elevator would be linked to one of the most disturbing incidents the hotel had ever quietly buried. The receptionist noticed the elevator first because the bell sounded in an otherwise silent lobby. The doors opened slowly, revealing an empty cabin lit by soft interior lights. No guests stepped out, no luggage wheels crossed the marble floor. The car simply opened, waited, and closed again. It should have been dismissed as a routine glitch. Older buildings had strange habits, and luxury hotels often hid their technical imperfections beneath polished surfaces. But a few minutes later, the same elevator returned to the lobby again, opened, and remained there longer than usual. This time, the receptionist walked over and looked inside. Everything seemed normal until she noticed one thing. The floor indicator above the control panel showed the car had just come from a level that did not exist on the public guest map of the hotel. The elevator itself was elegant in the outdated way many old hotels are. Mirrored walls, brass trim, soft ceiling lights, and a floor panel polished by decades of use. The receptionist stepped inside and looked more carefully at the row of buttons. The numbered floors matched the public layout, but one tiny light above the panel still glowed faintly where no visible button existed. It was not a floor number she could press, only an indicator she could see reflected near the edge of the panel glass. When she called security and asked whether there had ever been another level in the building, the guard laughed at first and told her she was overthinking a faulty light. But when he came to inspect it himself, he stopped joking almost immediately. He saw it too. Something in the elevator system was indicating a stop between the 12th floor and the roof service level. The security guard checked the digital elevator log from the front desk terminal, expecting to find a minor electronic error. But the event record showed an actual stop request had been processed. The elevator had gone to level 14A at 12:58 a.m., remained there for 16 seconds, and then returned to the lobby. The problem was simple. There was no level 14A in the hotel's official operating system. The building rose 12 guest floors, followed by a mechanical section and roof access. No hidden 13th floor, no mezzanine, nothing in between. Yet the elevator software had not only recognized that level, it had assigned time to it. The guard printed the record and read it twice, then once more. In every version, the same impossible floor appeared in clean black text, as if it belonged there all along. At first, management assumed the answer would be technical. Older elevator systems were often upgraded in layers over decades, and forgotten maintenance labels or software remnants could remain hidden beneath newer interfaces. But when the overnight manager arrived and compared the active system map with archived service records, the inconsistency remained. No old numbering scheme matched 14A, no renovation plan referenced a missing level. Still, the elevator behaved as if it recognized the space. Worse, it did so repeatedly. At 1:21 a.m., the same car rose again without being called from any visible floor. It skipped the 12th level entirely, paused in complete silence between floors, and then registered another stop at 14A before descending. This time, the security guard watched the movement in real time on the system monitor. The elevator had not glitched. It had traveled somewhere. The building's CCTV system covered the lobby, the main hallways, the elevator interiors, and all standard guest floors. Security pulled the previous hour of footage and began tracing the movements around the second unscheduled stop. The lobby cameras showed no one approaching the elevator before it moved. The interior camera showed an empty cabin rising. But when the archived clip reached the point where the car should have opened at the unknown floor, the feed briefly distorted. The image flickered for less than a second, then stabilized on the empty elevator interior again. After another several seconds, the doors opened in the lobby. That distortion was the only visible interruption in an otherwise continuous recording. It was not dramatic. It did not show a face or a figure. But in an investigation built on routine, even a 1-second break became impossible to ignore. The night supervisor ordered the security guard not to mention the event to guests and asked maintenance to inspect the elevator immediately. The maintenance worker, a man who had been with the hotel for nearly 20 years, grew quiet when he saw the floor log. He insisted the building had no such level, but he also admitted something he had never put in writing. Years earlier, during a wiring repair near the elevator shaft, he had seen an old access marking painted over on a concrete wall. It had not shown a standard floor number, just the faded letter A beside an arrow. He had assumed it referred to duct access or a utility landing sealed during renovation. At the time, it had seemed too minor to matter. Now, with the printed log sitting on the desk between them, the memory returned differently. The next step was to inspect the elevator shaft schematics. Those drawings were stored in the maintenance office, along with decades of renovation paperwork, fire inspection reports, and structural modifications. The manager expected the records to settle the issue quickly. Instead, the oldest blueprint showed something strange. In the original 40s design, there was a service level between the 12th floor and the mechanical roof structure, labeled simply Annex A. It appeared to include 2 storage rooms, 1 service corridor, and a sealed elevator opening. In later blueprints, that same section had been scratched over, revised, or omitted entirely. By the 1980s, it no longer existed on any guest or employee map, yet the physical space had once been part of the building. The elevator had not invented a floor from nothing. It had pointed to a place that had once been real. Management now faced a problem larger than a technical anomaly. If Annex A had physically existed, where was it now? A building cannot simply erase a floor without leaving structural evidence. Maintenance checked stairwell blueprints and discovered something equally strange. One of the service staircases ended in a locked landing between the 12th and roof level, but no current staff member had a key for it. The lock had been painted over years ago, and most employees assumed it led to old ventilation access. The maintenance worker tried 3 master keys without success. The lock was original, heavy, and almost never used. Dust had gathered around the frame thick enough to suggest no one had opened it in years. Yet from the other side, according to the original plans, there should have been a corridor once connected to the missing floor. A decision was made to leave the stairwell sealed until daylight, when the hotel owner could authorize forced access. But before sunrise, the elevator moved again. This time, the interior camera captured something new. As the car rose empty through the upper floors, the mirrored wall reflected what looked like a second shape, standing just beyond the center of frame. It was visible only for a moment, pale and vertical, too indistinct to identify as a person, but too solid to dismiss as compression error. The guard replayed the clip several times, and each time saw the same thing, an empty elevator containing the suggestion of an additional occupant, visible only in reflection. The shape vanished before the distortion at the unknown stop, and when the doors later opened in the lobby, the car was empty again. At 7:10 a.m., with owner approval finally secured, maintenance cut through the old stairwell lock. The door opened into a narrow concrete landing covered in dust, stale air, and the smell of dry plaster. Beyond it was a corridor that should not have been there. The space matched the oldest blueprint almost exactly, though parts of it clearly had been abandoned mid-renovation decades ago. Old wallpaper clung to sections of wall, sheet-covered carts sat collapsed near a corner. The corridor's lights no longer worked, and the team entered with portable lamps and flashlights. The hotel had built around this level and then somehow forgotten it. But what unsettled everyone immediately was not just the existence of the hidden floor.
It was the sense that it had not remained fully untouched. Dust coated most surfaces thickly, but not evenly. Along one section of the corridor, the floor showed signs of recent disturbance. Not clear footprints, not enough for measurement, but enough to suggest movement had occurred through the dust within the past few days. One abandoned room at the end of the hall stood slightly open, unlike the others, whose warped doors remained sealed. The manager called out before approaching, half out of protocol and half to calm himself. No answer came back. The room beyond contained old hotel furniture stacked under cloth sheets, a cracked mirror, and a service cart with rusted wheels. Yet near the center of the room lay a single modern object that did not belong there, an active room key card encoded only 3 months ago. When they scanned the key card in the hotel system, the room assignment returned as 1208, a normal guest room on the 12th floor. That room had been occupied the previous week. Location data in real time. The vehicle was active, moving, and technically still in service, even though the driver had not checked in with dispatch as required after the final stop. Attempts to contact the onboard radio produced only static. A maintenance ping to the vehicle computer returned successfully, which meant the bus systems were still functioning normally. That result only made the situation stranger. Mechanical systems were responding, GPS remained active, and onboard electronics showed no fault severe enough to explain a communications blackout. The bus was still part of the network, still visible on city tracking maps, and yet no one in control could establish contact with whoever or whatever was operating it. Street camera footage captured the bus passing through several intersections where it had no reason to be. The roads were nearly empty, the surrounding buildings dark, and the route strangely consistent, as if following a destination not listed on any transit map. It stopped once at an abandoned shelter where no passenger was present. The front door opened, remained open for 6 seconds, then closed again. No one got on, no one got off. The moment unsettled investigators because it suggested a continuation of routine. The bus was still behaving like a public vehicle, still acknowledging stops, still following some internal logic, even though the scheduled route had ended. If the bus had simply malfunctioned, random movement would have made more sense. But this was not random. It looked procedural, intentional, and eerily calm, like a service continuing long after it should have been over. One camera in an industrial district showed the bus slowing beside a shelter that had been officially removed from active service months earlier. The signpost remained, but no buses were supposed to stop there anymore. Yet the vehicle pulled in precisely, aligned with the curb as though following an old route still stored in its memory. The doors opened again. This time, the grainy exterior angle seemed to show a shadow near the front entrance, but the image quality was too poor to confirm whether it was a person, a reflection, or camera noise caused by the rain. When analysts enhanced the footage later, the shape remained inconclusive. Still, it introduced a possibility no one liked discussing openly. If the bus had opened for someone, then perhaps the route had not continued empty at all. Perhaps there had been a passenger left unseen by the interior cameras, or something else entirely. Investigators reviewed the rear interior feed repeatedly, searching for any missed detail. Most of the ride showed only rows of empty seats, faint vibrations from the road, and reflections sliding across the rain-streaked windows. But in one sequence lasting less than 3 seconds, a pale shape appeared near the back corner of the bus. It did not enter from the aisle, and it did not resemble a passenger standing up.